Hello guys, good evening guys. Welcome to the class, and I'll be teaching you the design of reinforced concrete structures, and I'll basically start with very basics of reinforced concrete structure. Then after that, we'll work on numerical problems and designs of various building elements. See, this subject, right? The subject requires basic foundation, basic concept from our engineering mechanics, some from strength of materials, especially shear force and bending moment diagrams. Then a few concepts from your structural analysis. Because in the field also, right? Once you do the structural analysis, then we get the values like bending moment and shear force. Once you know the values, then only we'll be in a position to design the building elements like beams, columns, slabs, etc. Okay. Now let's talk about design. So basically, the moment when I say design of any structure, right, that means basically talking about two things. One is the dimensions of the structure. Example, say talk about beam, we talk about what is the width and what is the depth of the beam. I'll talk about slab, let's talk about we design for 1 meter, but see what is the thickness of the beam. I'll talk about column, you see what is the cross section size of the column. That's one thing. One certain parameter is the dimensions of the element. And the second parameter is the reinforcement, the quantity of reinforcement, how much reinforcement is to be provided. So these two factors, the outcome of design of any structure is basically, especially in reinforced concrete structure, is to finalize the dimensions for the given loading and moment, and finding out the area of reinforcement. These two are the main objects of the design. Now let's go back to history. Let's see what are the different types of reinforcement methods of design. See, the long back, there was called working stress or permissible stress method. This was a very primitive kind of design. In this design, the factor of safety was applied only to yield or ultimate stress to get the permissible stresses. That means for a given material, that means for the concrete or for steel. So we apply in this method, factor of safety was applied and permissible stresses were obtained. Now, structure is designed only to take care of working loads or service loads. That's one thing, without exceeding the permissible stresses in the material. This was the concept in working stress method. But the problem here was because this method considered only the working or service loads. It didn't consider the ultimate loads acting on the structure. That was the main drawback of working stress method. Later on, from a lot of research across the globe, so ultimate load or ultimate strength method was proposed. And it was in practice for some time. And in this method, the load factors were applied to working loads. That means what are the loads acting on the structure. For those loads, load factor was applied. The safety factors were also applied to the strength of the materials. Okay. Then in this method, structure was designed to support the design ultimate loads. This was fine. But problem with this ultimate load method was serviceability. In this method, whether the structure is getting any cracks or not, or what kind of deflection the structure was having, all those factors were not checked actually. So there was no check, or those factors are not were not considered in the ultimate design method. Sorry. So that was the drawback about ultimate design method. Now again, after a lot of research in 1960, after that there was a new method called limit state method was proposed. So this is a method which took into consideration both the strength in the sense the material failure, at what load the material will fail. So when any structural element is failing, right, it can fail because of flexure in the sense because of bending action, or it can fail because of shear, it can fail because of compression. So those failures, different failures were considered. At the same time, serviceability was also considered. Serviceability in the sense how it's performing with respect to deflections, what are the crack limits, cracking, etc., or how good resistance to fire it is. All those factors are considered in the limit state method. So that's why this method is in existence now. So whatever the design we do, we continue to use limit state method design in our class. Okay, so throughout this course, we'll be using limit state method. Okay. Okay. Now, before we get into the design, right, let's try to understand individually the materials. like what are materials and their stress strain behavior and the reinforced cement concrete. So the moment I say reinforced cement concrete, we are basically talking about two different materials. One is the concrete. So though concrete has different materials, in our design we consider this as a single material, the concrete, okay, the main product. Then we have reinforcement, basically steel. Okay. Now if you look at the stress strain graph, the material behavior of the material that we consider for the design. So this is if see guys, throughout my course I'll be referring like this. The IS 456 2000 is the main code that we use. So wherever we have relevant material or the clauses, I'll be referring to the page numbers. So if you look at page number 69 of IS 456, that talks about stress strain behavior of concrete. Okay. Look at the first graph, guys. So this is what the stress strain. The moment you conduct stress strain behavior on the concrete, it behaves like this. So FCK, FCK is nothing but characteristic strength of concrete. Okay. So I think probably studied in our concrete technology. So let me repeat. The characteristic strength means it is strength of the concrete. Okay. When you conduct a number of tests, right? It is the strength of the concrete. When you conduct number of tests, at least 95% of the times you get the value equal to or more than the value. That's what is called characteristic strength. That means if I take about M30, say characteristic strength of concrete is 30 Newton per mm square. That means when you conduct a test on the concrete, your value is supposed to come 30 or more than 95% of the times. That's what it is. Okay, now because concrete, it made of a lot of materials, so there are a lot of quality issues involved in it. That's why you don't take strength as it is as FCK, but you take FCK by 1.5. This is what is the strength that we consider for design. We take it as 0.67 FCK. But then this what is the strength. But then again, we apply what is known as partial safety factors. You see here gamma M. Gamma M is known as safety factor. Clearly we call them partial safety factor because there are again a lot of to take factor of safety we consider safety factors here because there are a lot of right, concrete technology, there's something called target mean strength, then we can take what is known as standard deviation into consideration to take care of all those standard deviation, all the factors. Instead of using those standard deviation factor here, we use what is known as partial safety factor. I take 0.67 divided by again gamma m. Gamma m we take this safety factor as 1.5 for concrete, so that becomes 0.67 by 1.5 becomes 0.42 approximately, 0.4243. Okay, that's what that means. We take throughout the course this value as 0.42 FCK. That is what is the strength of the concrete we take in the design. So if you look at the page number 69, guys, there are limited of collapse or the flexure assumptions. This basically this topic talks about assumptions made in the design of concrete structures. So I want you to go through them because sometimes it's important from exam point of view. In theory question, they ask you state the assumptions made in reinforced cement concrete structures. So especially assumptions made in limited design of reinforced concrete structures. So you can get all those assumptions from page number 69, guys. Just go through them. So in that assumptions only, it's assumed that concrete will maximum strain allowed in the concrete is 0.0035. That's how we get this strain value. Similarly, let us look for the steel stress strain behavior. Again, it is available on page number 70 of IS 456. So here, usually we take a value of 0.002 is a strain. But for the strain, the maximum strain allowed here, for the strain value is Fi value. This is what a characteristic yield value of steel, characteristic strength of steel, Fi value. So they get two graphs there. One is for mild steel. If you're using mild steel, we use this graph. And if you're using HYSD bars, then we use this graph. HYSD means high yield strength deformed bars. That means if you're using Fe415 or Fe500, then we use this graph for finding out the stress at a particular strain value. Okay. Now, because we talked about a limit state method, let me tell you what is the meaning of limit state first of all. So limit state means it's a kind of a failure. So it is a place, it's a situation where structure becomes unfit for the use. Example, say you have a beam in our house or in the classrooms or where you have a beam. So if beam becomes excessively deflected, so you will not feel safe to sit under it, right? Maybe live in the building. So that's why though that source, it will not completely fall down, but then it basically it'll be there, but they don't feel safe to stay there because it has excessive deflections. Okay, so that means basically when you talk about limit state, so when the structure is not doing its part, it's not becoming safe for the purpose for it is designed, right? Then we call it a limit state. Okay, when that means structure when it becomes unfit, it can become unfit in two ways. One is it can completely fail. Okay, that's what is called failure or limit state, failure limit state or collapse. It will completely collapses. So that means it's not serving its purpose because it's collapsed. We call this failure limit state. Other method is serviceability limit state. That means it's not failed completely, but the structure has developed a lot of cracks, or it has got excessive deflection. It has more of shrinkage. Then in those cases also we don't feel safe to use those structures. In that case also we say that, oh, limit state has been reached from serviceability standpoint. That means when talk about serviceability, from serviceability standpoint, the structure is not performing the way we want it to be. Okay. So that's how we call this limit states. Basically, we divide them into two parts. One is limit state of collapse, or we call failure limit state, and serviceability limit state. Now, as I said, we use what is known as partial safety factors in the design. Okay, why we use the partial safety factors is because, see guys, when you manufacture cement, sorry, when you manufacture concrete, okay, because it includes a lot of work, because you bring materials from different sources, cement, coarse aggregate, fine aggregate. Then again, you need to ensure good quality measures there. You have to go ensure proper mixing, proper compaction, proper curing. So though you are using M30 grade concrete, so there are situations where concrete may not give you exactly 30 MPa when you test the concrete. Okay, to take care of all those uncertainties, we use what is known as safety factors. So for the materials, we reduce the actual strength of the material. Okay, and if you take about the safety factor for the loads, okay, loads are acting. Example, say today 100 kilometers is acting. So, but tomorrow who don't know, right? During the service life of the structure, 200 kilometers may act. We don't know. So to take that, we take the maximum load and then we factorize it. We increase the expected load acting on the structure. So that's also called safety factors. Look at here the notes. I said gamma mm is a safety factor. We use it for materials reduction factor. That means reduce your gamma m value for the materials, but for the gamma f is basically for the loads. For the loads, we use enhancement factor. That means for the loads, we multiply with the partial safety factor. For the materials, we divide it by partial safety factor to get the design parameters. Talk about characteristic and design strength. The moment I say strength, we're talking about the material strength. So the materials, you see, characteristic strength is mean minus k times standard deviation. This is what we use. That means compared to actual strength, the characteristic strength will be less because you're detecting some part here because of uncertainties. Okay, that is why what are the material strength we have, we do divided by safety factor to get the strength of the material. Similarly, for the materials design strength, if you want, we take characteristic strength divided by partial safety factor. The partial safety factor depends upon what kind of limit state it is. We're talking about collapse, limit state deflection, limit state local damage. If we're talking about the steel, so look at here for the steel, in case of failures, collapse, we use 1.15 as the partial safety factor. Whereas for the concrete, we use 1.5. We use higher value for the concrete, lower value for the steel. The reason is that concrete is made from different materials and concrete is produced at site using normal unskilled labor. So not much of quality control is possible here. So that's why you provide a higher safety factor here. Here steel, on the other hand, it is manufactured in the industry. It's subjected to a lot of quality issues, lot of strict supervision. That's why there will be less risk here. There will be less chances that your quality may not be attained. Okay, that's why we are giving lesser partial safety factor here. So you want design strength, you take characteristic strength divided by partial safety factor. That will give you the design strength. But one good thing is, whatever the formula we have in the IS 456-2000, already partial safety factors are incorporated. That means they used partial safety factor already for the steel and concrete. Okay, so you don't have to apply it again. But then you need to understand the basics. What is the partial safety factor? How do we get the design strength? So why the partial safety factors are different for steel and concrete? If you look at here, both are different because the way how we manufacture them are different. The quality issues. Okay. Now, similarly, when we talk about characteristic loads, or design loads, and partial safety factors. As I said, for the design loads, we multiply the given working load with partial safety factor because of uncertainty. Okay, that's what we do. So if you look at the IS 456 page number 68, it talks about various partial safety factors for different load combinations. Talk about two types of limit states, right? Here is a limit state of collapse. Here is a limit state of serviceability. So if you are using a combination of dead load and live load, then we use dead load and live load combination. Then factor of safety factor is always use partial safety factor as 1.5. We multiply with load factor as 1.5. If you're using wind load, we multiply only with 1. Similarly, if you are using dead load and wind load combination, there's 1.5 or 1.9. It's like this. If we talk about serviceability aspects, we take always one only most of the cases, except these three combinations. When dead load, live load, and wind load are acting all three of them together, not together, then we take factors differently based on whether based on what kind of load you are using for this combination in case of limit state of serviceability. So this table talks about what kind of partial safety factors we use for the loads based on kind of load combinations. But for our course, we mostly use dead load and live load combination. That is why throughout the course, our load factor will be 1.5. We'll get the working loads, we'll multiply with 1.5 throughout the course because we consider only dead load and live load in the load combinations. Okay. Now, if you draw the, because see guys, from concrete technology also we know that when you test the number of samples, right, they follow normal distribution curve. So this is what is the effect of load. So load, will assume that loading is also following normal distribution, and the concrete material when you test is also following normal distribution. Fm means mean strength. Is a mean or load value, and is the mean strength of the concrete. So we're taking 1.65 for the loads. You're adding 1.65 of standard deviation value. For the material, from mean value, you're deducting 1.65 times the standard deviation. That means characteristic strength of load is given by mean value plus 1.65 times the standard deviation. Whereas for the characteristic strength of concrete, this is mean value minus 1.65 times standard deviation. Because see, guys, standard deviation values we can't get if you want to do the design just like that. Okay, and this is also difficult. That is why, because we don't know the standard deviation values, that is the reason why partial safety factors came into play. So we're using partial safety factors instead of using the standard deviation. But still we are using probability approach. Limited design method of design is a probabilistic method. Okay. It's the same thing we discussed. Okay, guys, this talks about, so far what we discussed was basically stress and grouse for concrete and steel. Then we discussed what is partial safety factor, what is the meaning of characteristic strength, then how to find out characteristic strength for steel and concrete, and why we have different values of partial safety factors. Okay, so is this clear, guys, so far to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so others guys, is it clear apart from Nikhil? Okay, I hope it's clear to them as well. Okay, now let's move on to next topic, guys. Next topic we talk about stress block parameters. See, this is the diagram of reinforced concrete beam. So you have a steel reinforced here, reinforced steel. Then let us say width of the section is B, overall depth of the section is D, then effective depth is taken as small d. So we take the effective depth until center of the reinforcement. So first graph talks about the strain diagram. Okay, so before failure, the maximum strain allowed in the concrete is 0.0035. This is what the strain allowed in the concrete. Then similarly, for particular strain in the concrete, the strain in the steel is given by this equation, 0.002 plus 0.87 by ES. This will give us the strain in the steel. Okay. Now, this graph, it talks about the stress variation. See, until 0. This what is the maximum strain. So you see rectangular portion until 0.002, it is rectangular portion. Okay, after rectangular portion, it starts taking a parabolic shape. Okay, from 0.002 to this portion until 0 strain, it takes a parabolic. Okay, so this is what we try to look at this, guys. This is a stress block diagram. So when the concrete is strained, right, completely strained up to 0.0035, then the stress available in the concrete is 0.45 ck. That's what we take, the maximum stress available in the concrete is 0.45 ck, and maximum stress in the steel is taken at 0.87 Fi. That means Fi divided by 1.15. Here it is 0.67 FCK by 1.5. Those are stresses. Okay. Now, if you look at this, we have two portions here in the stress block diagram. In the stress portion, here is rectangular portion. Until this is rectangular portion, let us say C1 force is acting here. Let us say this is the parabolic portion. Let's say C2 force is acting here. Okay. Now I want to find out what is the equivalent force acting at some point at the center of gravity of this portion. Okay. I want to find out what is the total force acting. That's what is the CU. I'm denoting this with CU. So my aim is, when I say stress block parameters, I want to find out how much is the force that is acting here. Is one thing. Second thing, at what distance from the top of the beam this force is acting. Okay, I just want to find out these two things. This will give me the complete stress block diagram. Okay. Now to do that, we'll do simple mathematics here. See, this was the same thing I had drawn here again. 0.0035, 0.002 is the strain here. I'll assume the depth from top of the beam to this axis. This axis is called neutral axis. So neutral axis is the place where strain or stress is 0. So you don't find any stresses here. Okay. Okay. So this was the stress block diagram, guys. So I have two forces acting here. Let me find out. So when you do the simple mathematics here, calculation. So this what is again strain attack on the upper portion. Upper portion is 0.0035, 0.002. I want to find out what is the heights here. I use similar triangle approach here. Let me say this height from the bottom is A and total is XU. So A by XU is equal to so this 0.02, the base is the smaller triangle, height is A, and for the larger triangle, height is XU. A by XU. For the small triangle, the base is 0.002. For larger thing, 0.005. So I got A is equal to 4 by 7 XU. So that means this value is nothing but 4 by 7 times XU value. So that means remaining one is 3 by 7 XU. Okay. So what I do is I'll find out what the value. So rectangle. First I put the rectangle value, nothing but base into height. So that means base into height will give me the area. Then for the parabola, for this parabolic value is 2/3 times base into height. This is what is the area of the parabola. This is 2 by 3 into base is 2 by 7 into this whole value, right? This whole value is the 4 by 7, 2 by 3 into 4 by 7 XU into this value. This value is again 0.45 FCK. 446 FCK. I got area 2. Now Y1 is distance of the first floor from the top. So from this top, this is acting at a distance of, this is, assume this is the height h. From here, this force is acting at a distance of h by 2. That means 3 by 7 by 2. That means 3 by 14. That's what the first force that is acting. So the second force is acting at a distance of, okay, 3 by 7 plus for this distance, right? It's acting at 4 by 7 distance. Out of 4 by 7 is acting again at a distance of 3 by 14 plus 3 by 7 distance. Okay? Taking from again from the top. Okay, 3 by 7 plus this distance. That means this total is from here 3/8 of value. From here it is 3/8 of value. 3/8 of 4 by 7. Center of gravity is from this point, it is 3/8 of height. Height is 4 by 7. We get 3 by 14 XU from this point. But I'm measuring all the heights from this point. That means this force is acting at a distance of this distance plus this distance. These two distances. So add them, then you find out Y bar 0.42 XU. That means the total force, right? This total force, the equivalent force. This force is acting at a distance of 0.42 XU from the top. The total value force is nothing but 0.36 FCK KXU. Sum of both the forces. Force acting in the rectangular section plus force acting on the parabola section. Total is 0.3 FCK, FCK XU acting at a distance of 0.42. So same thing is available in our IS code also, 456, page number 69, the stress block diagram. Now what we derived was how we get this 0.36 FCK XU and how we get this distance 0.42 XU. That's what's shown to you before. Okay. So for throughout the course, right, we use only these equations to find out depth of neutral axis. So XU is known as depth of neutral axis. So depth of neutral axis is nothing but the depth from top of the member to the place where the stresses are becoming zero, the place where we have the neutral axis. That's known as depth of neutral axis. Okay, if you look at this, consider a section. So for if you look at page number 96 of IS 456, you see this equation: XU by D is equal to so much. This we get basically from stress block diagram. The stress block diagram, bottom the force acting is 0.87 Fy. So multiply with area of the reinforcement, you get the force, total tension force. So total compression force is 0.36 FCK BU into XU. This was the total compression force that's acting. If we equate both of them and solve for XU by D, we get this equation from this. So this is the equation we use to find out depth of neutral axis. So which is available on page number 96 of IS code. Okay. Okay. Now guys, if we get this, guys, do we have any class next after this class?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, if at all get disconnected, please join again using the same link. Okay.
Okay.
You can join again. We'll continue for 5 to 10 minutes. If we get disconnected. Yeah. Okay. Now we have seen what is neutral axis, right? Just remember this. So this was the equation we used to find out depth of neutral axis. That means for a given section. So where is the neutral axis lying? That's nothing but XC value. We find out that using this equation. So this is anyway available on page number 96 of IS 456. Now let's try to understand classification of sections. So when you have any concrete, any structure, especially the beams, so we classify them as 3 sections. One is balanced section, under reinforced section, and over reinforced section. Okay. So again, all our analysis, design, everything is based on this classification only. Now let's try to understand what's the meaning of balanced section. When I say balanced section, let us say rectangular beam. So this is what the reinforcement. Okay. When I draw the strain diagram, this is what we get. So strain at the for the concrete, I'm denoting with epsilon Cu. The strain in the concrete is E epsilon S. Okay, it's a balance neutral axis. The XU max is depth of neutral axis. Okay, so balance section means when you apply, you cast a beam and you apply the load, and if at all the strain in the concrete, that is 0.0035, and the strain in the steel, I say approximately 0.002, you both reach at the same time. That means maximum strain in the concrete and maximum strain in the steel will reach at the same time. Then we call this a balance section. The strain in both the materials will reach at the same time. When it reaches, right, then they'll fail basically. That's what is the maximum we are allowing strain. Okay. But then once that is reached, then the material will fail. Okay. So other way around is with the stresses in the concrete and stress in the steel reach at the same time. Maximum stresses. But we're talking about strain concept. That means maximum allowable strain in the concrete and maximum strain in the steel achieved at the same time. Then we call this a balanced section. The depth of neutral axis of balanced section is denoted with XU max. This is what the maximum we can allow. That the moment I say max notation, we're talking about a balanced section. Okay. So for balanced section, we can find out depth of neutral axis of a balanced section using this equation. XU max by D is equal to 700 by 1100 plus 0.87 Fy. This is what the equation we use to find out depth of neutral axis of a balanced section. But we don't want to remember this, it's fine. So if you go to page number 70 of IS 456, that gives you XU max by D value directly for different grades of Fa value. For 250, there's 415, 500 grade concrete. But these values are obtained by using this equation. Okay, that means for it, if you want to find out depth of neutral axis for a balanced section, you simply go to page number 70, we know grade of steel we are using, then we'll directly find out what is the depth of neutral axis of a balance section. Okay, that means in the balance section, strain in the concrete and strain in the steel will reach at the same time. Okay, now talk about under reinforced section. So this is what is, if you look at here comparison, guys, XU max refers to balance section, depth of neutral axis of balance section. For under reinforced section, the depth will be less because you're measuring from the top. That means you find out what is the depth of neutral axis of your section and find out what is the depth of neutral axis of a balance section. Then if your value is less than depth of neutral axis of a balance section, then your section is under reinforced section. Okay. For under reinforced sections, what happens is strain in the steel will reach first, because the strain is supposed to be only this value for the balance section. But if you talk about under reinforced section, your strain is more in the steel. But whereas in the concrete, it is same. The dotted line shows for balance section. Okay, for the concrete it is same, but in the strain in the steel is more in case of under reinforced section. That means your steel will fail first in under reinforced sections. Well, again, if you look at here, area of reinforcement compared to balance section, the limit means it's for the balance section. That means the area of reinforcement of an under reinforced section is less than that of a balance section. Okay, the reinforcement is less as compared to balance section. Then depth of neutral axis is also more. Sorry, depth of neutral axis is less as compared to depth of neutral axis of a balance section. This is what is the properties of under reinforced sections. Here, steel strains more. That means steel will fail first before concrete fails. Okay, that means strain levels are more in steel as compared to balance section in case of under reinforced concrete.